Let's go. Hello, my name is Bryce Tubbs. With me today is Hayden Humphrey. He is an uplifter who helps you break up with the internal scripts that are keeping you stuck so you can create your own life. I cannot wait to have this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Hayden.
Thanks for having me, Bryce.
You're welcome. Before we go any further, for those watching, if you're watching this from any location that is outside of our free community, I just want to personally invite you inside. It's taken a very, very, very long time to cultivate such a positive group of people. Would love to have you join us and be an additional positive person in the group. Click the link either above or below and watch this from inside. Now, Hayden, what was life like before you got into coaching? Really, what was the catalyst that brought you into the space?
Yeah, man, what was life like before coaching? A lot more anxious, a lot more anxiety. I felt a lot smaller, a lot less powerful. I had spent the first 4 years of my life doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing. I was following the script that was given to me when I was much younger, which was be as small as possible, stay invisible, be nice to everyone, and they'll like you, and that's how you'll get what you want. And so that was pretty much all the way up through middle school, high school, college. After college, that was pretty much how I lived my whole life, was like achieve a lot of things and be impressive so people like you, and be nice to people and don't make any waves, and everything's going to turn out fine. And when I ended up deciding to leave my full-time job in the beginning of 2017, that was actually sort of like the first domino in a series of dominoes that had me really come to terms with a lot of these stories that I had been living inside of. And the catalyst to me really taking on coaching work was after I left my full-time job and I was trying to decide what I wanted to do next. I was doing a lot of research, talking with people who were in the personal development space because I found that really interesting. And I ended up getting connected with a coach who ran a podcast. His name's Brian Tier. He runs a podcast called The Quarter Life Comeback. And I hired him, and that was kind of like the thing that set me off on coaching, because I realized that in my work with him and in my work with subsequent coaches, I was able to achieve much more in a much shorter period of time because I had someone else who was actively reflecting back to me how I was getting in my own way and was willing to say the thing to me that no one else was, willing to say. So before pre-coaching, I was taking baby steps with my own interpersonal growth and development, and a lot of people pleasing getting in the way, a lot of just like being nice to people and not having boundaries, and not owning my voice or taking up any space. That definitely shifted when I got into coaching.
Yes. Let me ask you this question. So what was the first thing, when you were working with all these coaches, what was like the first thing that you did to start becoming bigger?
First thing I did to start becoming bigger. Well, I think there's two sides to it, because I think part of it is the internal. It's like the mindset work around how do you relate to yourself? How do you relate to your own sense of worth and what you deserve out in the world in terms of material results, in terms of relationships, in terms of your experience of life. And I don't necessarily know if there was anything that or one particular event that prompted that kind of the work that I've been doing around that. I think that's been sort of like an ongoing thing, since I left my job. But I would say from, the more external perspective, not the mindset piece, but the more external perspective, something that's been really helpful for me is I started working with a gentleman recently. He's a brand marketer. His name's Rich Keller. And he works a lot with entrepreneurs to help them understand what their core value is, or more clearly define and articulate their brand. And he's been really helpful for helping me basically up-level the vision that I have for my life and what I'm capable of producing and the impact that I want to have and the scale at which I want to have an impact. Like I was playing like minor leagues or like backyard baseball, and Rich is inviting me into this conversation that's major leagues. And so that's really cool. So I think to answer your question, part of it has been mindset work, which is part of it has been fueled by my desire to get better and be bigger. And then part of it has also been through, this people that I've hired, people that I've worked with who have helped me in elevating, my vision for what I want to create.
And nowadays, what problem are people generally trying to solve when they come and work with you?
Yeah. The problem that most people have when they come to me is they feel stuck. Like they just generally feel stuck. And there's this sense of things are not as they should be. I want something different, but I don't know how to go out and create that. I feel like I'm living a very inauthentic life. I don't feel like my relationships are genuine. I'm not enjoying my work. There's something else that I want to be doing. So there's just this general sense of feeling like they're in the wrong place and there's something else that they would rather be doing. And it shows up in a lot of different areas. It can show up, most often it shows up in career. So people are feeling really stuck in corporate jobs and they're sort of disillusioned with the story that they were given and the script that they were given as far as what success and fulfillment is supposed to look like. Because for a lot of folks, that's what it looks like. It's, hey, go get a corporate job and then everything's going to be fine and you're going to be happy. And people get into it and they're like, this is not, this is so untrue. This is not at all accurate. But I think it also shows up in relationships, and not only like relationship with yourself, but also relationship with other people. People feeling like they are bending over backwards for everyone all the time. They have trouble saying no. They have trouble setting boundaries. They feel like their needs, emotions, desires, their experience of reality is somehow, less than or subservient to other people. And so there's this feeling of smallness and this feeling of disempowerment that leads a lot to burnout and overwhelm, that people are just really looking to break up and, take their energy and their life back in a lot of ways.
Nice. I like that. That's really, it's really cool how you're able to really understand what they're going through and really help them. Let me ask you this question. I think you touched on it a little bit a couple seconds ago. You're expanding your vision. Maybe what does the vision look like for you as far down the road as you like to think or talk about?
Yeah. So, it's been interesting in this conversation and in this relationship that I've been building with Rich. Like I said, he's been inviting me into, playing in the major leagues. And so really the core of what I want to accomplish is I want to support people to break up the scripts that are keeping them stuck in the same place. Because ultimately what I want for everybody and what I want for the world is for people to be the creators of their own lives. And most people, the vast majority of people, are not the creators of their own lives because they are unconsciously following these scripts that were given to them when they were much younger, at 6 or 7, when they were taught how the world works and their place in the world and who they were supposed to be out in the world. And so most people live their entire lives from 6 or 7 to 99, hopefully 100, and they die having not created their own experience of life. They were actually, the life that they lived was a result of the scripts that they were given when they were much younger. And so the impact, when I look at the impact that I want to have, it's supporting people in understanding that it doesn't have to go that way. Life doesn't have to go any particular way at all. And just because it's gone some way previously doesn't mean that it needs to go that way tomorrow. It can be completely different tomorrow. So long-term impact, that's the impact that I want to have, is breaking up, helping people break up with their scripts and create their own lives. And when I look at from a business perspective, how I want to do that, or, from an organizational perspective, how I want to do that, it's continuing to coach. It's continuing to put coaching in the hands of a lot of different types of people, because I think that right now, especially, coaching is a very high ticket item. And it is in some ways not accessible to many different populations in the world and specifically within the United States. And the work that coaches do is so powerful. And so it's kind of a tragedy that more people don't have access to it. So I want to bring coaching to more communities. I want to educate people more around entrepreneurship and how to start a business, because I think anyone can start a business, and it is an incredibly valuable skill set and an incredibly empowering thing to take on regardless of where you are or what you're doing. I want to do more in the way of group coaching. I want to get into speaking eventually. I'd love to write books. I'd love to create an academy and a particular approach to training and transformation that's all my own, that I can license people in. Because ultimately, like I said, the thing that I care about is supporting people in breaking up the scripts that they've been given, because life just gets a lot richer on the other side of that.
Nice. Let me ask this question. So are you working on anything new? I think you touched on it a little bit earlier with the group programs. Can you maybe share us what that looks like?
Yeah, sure. So, for me, like I said, I'm looking at how do I take the skill set that I have and support people, especially given everything that's going on with the pandemic and with COVID. Like, how do I support people regardless of where they are, regardless of the kind of financial assets that they have? And so, I'm looking at like how do I create a lot more content for free, and how do I create a lot more programs that are more accessible, for people outside of just a one-to-one coaching relationship. And so, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm launching a boot camp. Right now, I'm calling it the Be Bold boot camp. The idea is it's specifically designed for people pleasers, so people who struggle with saying no, setting boundaries, being real in relationships. They struggle with owning their desires and taking up space. It's a 3-month program, intensive group coaching, every week, accountability practices, that sort of thing. So that's definitely new. I've also rebranded my podcast recently. I run a podcast called the Paid to Be Me podcast, where I interview lifestyle entrepreneurs, people who are doing really interesting things in business and bringing a lot of their authentic selves into, what they're up to in their businesses. And so, for me, it's really just scaling. It's scaling those things. It's scaling my one-to-one coaching practice. It's scaling my group program. It's continuing to scale the impact of my content and of my podcast.
Nice. Where can people go to learn more about you and maybe connect with you further?
Yeah, so easiest place is my website, which is haydenhumphrey.com. I'm also available, or I'm on most social media platforms. I post mostly on LinkedIn and Instagram, but my username across all of them is Hayden as himself.
Okay. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate learning from you.
Thanks, Bryce.
Welcome. For those watching, we thoroughly hope that you found this valuable. And once again, if you're maybe feeling socially displaced, because we tend to be the average of the people that we spend the most time with. So maybe if your support system is kind of disintegrated because you're at home and you're around family members who maybe don't support you, either in your business or in your goals in your life, come and join us inside this community. It's taken extremely, extremely long time to kind of filter out people who don't have your best interests at heart and only put in people who want to see you improve. So if that's what you've been missing, come and join us by clicking the link either above or below the video. We'd love to have you in the community. Now, hopefully you enjoyed watching this as much as we enjoyed creating it. Feel free to hit the share button so other people can get some great value as well. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. We will see you in the next episode. Done recording in 3 and 2 and 1.